Now adjust the volume control so that the sound can be heard in all parts of the room.
This is the Protect Your Assets podcast.
Mr. Sandman,
You get the idea?
bring me a dream.
It's on the internet.
Make him the cutest that I've ever seen.
Go on.
Give him two lips like
It's like no cheese I've ever
and
tasted.
tell him that his lonesome
Here's the
nights
Sandman.
are over, Sandman.
Criminals are using the latest technology and a whole lot of creativity to come up with fresh ways to take your money. Good morning and welcome to Protect Your Assets. I'm David Hollander, your host. It's so great to be with you on this beautiful morning. For those of you just joining us for the first time, welcome. People around here, they call me the Sandman, and that's because I help my listeners sleep well at night by answering their most troubled tax, legal, or financial questions each week, and that's because I manage a tax, legal, and financial planning firm, and we've been practicing for over 30 years. Criminals are coming up with new ways using AI and all kinds of technology to steal from you, and this constantly changing environment is literally losing billions and billions of dollars of people's hard-earned money to crooks. In fact, some of these are popping up in the U.S. They're not just foreign anymore. And we want to let you know what's going on. So this morning I do have Chief Bowers with me. We're going to be talking about what's going on out there and what you need to be aware of, what you can do about it, and what you need to watch out for. And we'll share some stories with you. Don't get yourself in trouble. Make sure you know what's coming. Stay tuned for the entire show as we teach you about what crooks are up to. Now, let's get started. All right, well, the Fed did meet this past week, and the market liked it. We had the S&P up 1.6%, NASDAQ up 3.2%, Dow off a little bit, off 0.5%, the MSCI International Index off 1.4%, 10-year Treasury about flat, 4.21. I had a lot of questions this week about yields and where they're going to go. Let me get there in a minute. And oil at $78 a barrel. Bonds relatively flat on the year. So the Fed said this past Wednesday that they were not going to change rates. And they said that inflation came in lower than expected. We saw the consumer price index for May come down just a little bit, 3.3% compared to a year ago. And as expected, the Fed kept rates at 5.25 to 5.5%. Now, they did talk about the idea that there could at least be one rate cut this year. And they did say that they think rates would be about 2% lower through the end of 26. All right, with that, let's start talking about our topic. We're going to talk this morning about crooks and the fastest growing scams and what's going on out there. And I do have Chief Bowers with us this morning. Good morning, Chief. How are you?
I'm doing well, David. Doing well. Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. How's the coffee?
Coffee's phenomenal.
All right.
Coffee's phenomenal.
We thank Sheila for that.
I may need another cup during the show.
Good job. All right. Well, anyway, let's talk about this first one. This is called check cooking. And I'm familiar with check washing, but this is a new one. I guess in recent years, the check washing was where you would put a paper check in the mail, think it goes off. The crook steals the envelope, uses chemicals to take the payee off the check and the amount, leaves your signature on there, and then writes in their own name or whoever it's supposed to go. There's this new thing now. It's called check cooking, where apparently criminals get the check, they then scan it in their computer, and then they make more checks using the your signature and using who they want to pay to, and they do multiple ones of these, and then they basically loot you. So, have you heard about this?
Whether it's counterfeiting and coming up with new ways and methods, I've heard of versions of this. None of this surprises me.
Yeah.
And what we see is when we get brought into the mix in terms of law enforcement, when this gets reported.
How does that happen? Does the person who got ripped off basically call you?
They do. They report it to us. Oftentimes, as you just alluded to, after they've been hit pretty hard.
Yeah.
Some people pay closer attention to their accounts and their situations than others.
Sure.
It's preferable, on the front end of it to catch it so that, your losses are minimized. But we have seen instances like this. We had a check issue not too long ago that we were made aware of. And so, again, and with the advent of technology, you're going to see different techniques, different approaches develop. But the things to mitigate them, the responses, remain the same. So
Call your local law enforcement.
I'm glad we're going to be talking about that today.
Yeah. So, I mean, just to walk through it, I guess, the recommendation I saw in this case was, look at your bank statements monthly. Maybe set up alerts. I know some of the apps, I was with First Republic. I got forced over to Chase. I'm not going to comment about that yet. But in the app, which was good, the app had something that said, hey, if there's activity of a certain amount, we'll text you and let you know.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was kind of cool because I set that up. Hey, if there's going to be a transfer of X amount, let me know right away. Right. Then you can do something about it. I mean, that's one way to know. I guess with this, with having your routing number and your check account number and a signature, now they could probably pretty much get away with anything. So it sounds like it's back to the consumer to be pretty hyper vigilant about what's going on in their account.
Absolutely. It's vigilance, it's education, it's utilizing the tools and the alerts like you talk about. And then if something happens, it's reporting it in a timely fashion. Oftentimes there's a lot of either confusion or people feel embarrassed that they've been taken advantage of.
Sure.
And will hesitate. And so at the end of the day, or they just may be in a situation where, reporting isn't doing anything for them. So, we can talk a little bit about different approaches people can take in terms of reporting if you're not getting a response from your local entity.
Right. So you call the police hoping they're going to care about helping you and take a report and do it. Right. And they say, no, we're busy. We've got other things to do. Or they don't show up. Right.
Yeah.
This is a reality in California now.
Different departments are going to have different levels of bandwidth to be able to respond to these things.
Sure.
So that's the reality. If you're in Piedmont, we're going to respond. We're going to take the report and we're going to help you.
Yeah. Now, paper checks. Let's talk about that. So if people are still using the mailbox to put the check in the envelope, stick it on the street, probably not a good idea, I would think, given this sort of behavior.
Yeah, I think you want to minimize the exposure that you have with respect to this approach, and if possible,
U.S. Post Box, right? Like we have the one there by the banks.
Obviously, if you're going to have to do it, you're going to have to mail it. You want to mail it, and you want to reduce that exposure by maybe walking into a brick and mortar post office and dropping it inside the building, so you're not.
Because even the blue exposed. Post boxes, right? They're hitting those things.
Yeah,
right?
They're hitting those things. Those things have been ripped off, out. They're bolted down, ripped up off the thing, off the concrete. So, I mean, if you can avoid it in terms of sending paper checks. Go digital. But if you can't avoid it, then do everything you can to mitigate that risk. Go inside the facility. Hand it off. I had my neighbor. It's funny. My neighbor had to pay his gardener. For a pretty big project, and so he's has to do it by check, and he actually came over and asked us if we could person to person give it to him.
Is that right? Yeah.
So I mean, don't come over to my house and ask me to help you out, but that's just a point about mitigating that exposure.
Sure.
And whatnot. So.
Yeah, interesting. Okay. All right. Well, hey, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about this other AI related technology that crooks are using that in different ways to hit you right now where it hurts. So when we come back, we'll be talking with that. We'll be right back.
Take the first step toward reaching your financial goals and get the information that can help you live a confident retirement. That first step is going to pyaevents.com and signing up for our next free event. That's pyaevents.com. Now, back to Protect Your Assets with David Hollander, the Sandman.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, criminals are using the latest technology and a whole lot of creativity to come up with new ways to steal from you. In fact, we got 6 ideas we're talking about this morning that they're using right now to rip you off. And so I brought in someone who deals with it in the front end every day. Chief Bowers of the Piedmont Police is here with us. And so we're talking about the latest scams that are going on, how people are stealing from you, what you need to watch out for, and what you can do about it. And we're going to be talking about some actual stories that have happened to folks. So don't let it happen to you. Stick with us for the entire show as we get into the 6 fastest growing scams. So the next one is called voice printing. And this is where thieves capture a recording of your voice, as I'm talking right now, and then they use a software program to generate an imitation of your voice. They call this a deep fake. I think we've all heard of that, but I didn't really know what that means. Anyway, it's a recording of your voice to impersonate you. So they can use your voice to, say, call your bank or call loved ones and get these institutions to do things with your money. And so first and foremost, this is surprising. And I would think with AI technology as well, what could happen. So, Chief, talk to us a little bit about this. Have you heard anything about this, and what could someone do? As far as if you're going to be talking, now you can't use the phone to get things done. What can you do about something like this?
David, AI and the advent of AI is going to be one of the most challenging areas that we're going to face because the technology is evolving at such a rapid pace, right? And our ability to respond and react to it is, we're going to be behind the curve.
Sure.
So this is very concerning. I mean, when you talk about, your voice being used to call loved ones to convince them that you're in trouble and they need to send money now, that's a very daunting thing to come against. So at the end of the day, the approaches to deal with this, I mean, in this there's always going to be ebbs and flows and different approaches that crooks are going to take with this. But the things to guard against whatever technique is either in play now or that's going to come down the pipe, the approaches are the same. It's about prevention and about trying to ensure that you're talking with your loved ones, you're talking to the older folks in your life, you're talking about these things like we're doing today and educating people and highlighting that fact that these things exist. Yeah. And sharing stories about them. And then it's having the understanding that, listen, anytime that you're approached about a deal or about, to push this button or to click on this thing, you got to stop.
Yeah.
If you're being solicited, you got to assume all solicitations are fraudulent out of the gate. And you got to pause and you got to verify, you got to validate, and those types of things. And again, it's incredibly important, especially with folks who are vulnerable in our lives, in our networks, in our circles, that we're communicating with them, that we're giving them tools to be able to protect them, but also to educate them and to check in with them. So again, whether it's AI with this voice thing, whether it's, getting a mailer about a reverse mortgage,
right,
for your home, with a loved one that I've seen.
Sure. Which was a scam.
Which is a scam. All those things require some of these structures that I'm talking about, which is having the conversations with your loved ones, having that pause, hey, before you do anything, let me know.
Sure.
Let's talk about it before you do anything. And just setting those expectations.
What if somebody doesn't have somebody? So let's say you're an older person, you don't have really any kids or any family member around, you're by yourself. Like what could you do? Who could you talk to try and get some help?
There's entities, and that's a tough one. I mean, isolation is a challenging thing. But there's entities out there that can help. Obviously, if folks are, if folks are out there, I mean, just like, you set up your financial plan. I mean, reach out to folks who have a fiduciary responsibility to you to look out for you and guard you. We talked earlier this morning about setting up a trust and having, designating a trustee, if you will.
Sure.
Setting up some type of relationship like that where a trusted person can be that source of information for you and be that
sounding board, right?
Yeah, that sounding board that you need to say, hey, let's
is this a good decision or not? Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, no, that's important. So, be aware of this. They're using these stolen phones with SIM cards they can reprogram. Mm-hmm. So you could get a call from a number that identifies as something Like I see this happen sometimes on my phone. I'm like, well, who is that? I don't even know who this person is. The phone's getting smart enough now to say this is maybe junk. Do you want to report it as a fraud? But also they get through, and sometimes it's from something that sounds reputable, or maybe even someone So be careful about that because your cell phone could become, something that's not helpful to you. Be aware of that. There's this other one. We were just talking about this celebrity impersonation scam that's going on. There's another one where you're on Instagram or Facebook and someone pretends to be Celine Dion, or we were talking about Keanu Reeves. And in this case, the manager of Celine Dion reached out to this victim and said, Celine is in trouble. She's got a contract. She needs some help from her private account. I can help you. I'm her manager. Wants to connect you to the celebrity, right, and their fortune and so forth, and it's tied up in a lawsuit. Just comes up with all these these ideas, and you get a direct message apparently coming from the performer saying, yeah, I need help, and can you help us out and work with my agent? Like you're saying, I mean, talk to us about you. It sounds like you had an experience to something like this exactly, and it happens.
The listeners may be thinking, oh, come on, I mean, really, who would fall for this? But the reality is it happens, and people are victimized by it. In my jurisdiction, we actually investigated a case very similar involving, in this instance, the crooks used the persona of Keanu Reeves. And our victim in our situation, succumbed to the social engineering that occurred. Fortunately, they reported it, which is a big deal. People sometimes have, they're embarrassed, so they don't report. Fortunately, they reported, and we were able to help them conduct an investigation and be able to identify where some of their monies went. In this case, it was a crypto deal.
So let's kind of break that down. I mean, if someone gets solicited from Celine Dion or a famous personality. First of all, if you don't even know that person, like you should definitely check yourself and say, well, why would they even contact me? That's the first thing. Second thing, especially in the circles that I have and clients that I have, they frequently do meet with people like this all the time, and they have these connections, as do I. And I'll say that you could legitimately get a text. You haven't heard from this person for a couple of years. All of a sudden, you get a text, and it's like, oh, hey, Dave, I need this. Something's going on. Stop, right? Yeah. Stop. Call the person directly if you still have their number, their email, or whatever, or their agent. Reach out to them. Just verify, as you were saying, verify the story. Is this really going on? Is this true? Are you really doing this? Is this happening? And then before you say, well, I'm going to help this person out because they're famous or whatever, think about it. Why are you doing that? And can you take maybe 24 hours or 48 hours to talk to your financial advisor or your attorney or your trustee or your kids, about this decision you're about to make? Yeah. I think time, so often now we move too quickly and we don't think about things.
And that's a tactic that these crooks are taking. They're using, they're trying to appeal to your sense of urgency. And it's social engineering. And they're engineering a situation that you need to act now because they don't want that time. They don't want that thought process. They don't want that fiduciary to come in and say, wait. So if the listeners are hearing anything, take time, slow down, think, and have people in your life that are going to be able to be a good sounding board.
Absolutely. Yeah. These are all really good hints. And things you can do. The other one that really breaks my heart, I saw this movie recently. I was bringing this up. It's called The Beekeeper. And I'll just tell everybody out there, this was a violent movie. It's pretty violent. So if you're not into violence, just watch the beginning. But the message is pretty good in that, this is this multi-stage grandparent scam. And we work with a lot with seniors. I'm very familiar with seniors. I have written laws to protect seniors. I'm very involved in that area. And I think it's, we talked about earlier about being alone. I think, there's this multi-stage grandparent scam going on right now, and I want to talk about this. This is a new version of the classic grandparent scam. This is where, your grandchild is in trouble. They're maybe in a foreign country traveling. That. All of a sudden you get an email or something like that. This is a little more organized approach, and what blew me away, this was something I just recently read. This was exactly what the movie was about. There was a cell of 6 or 7 very sophisticated young people in the U.S. across the country who literally, it reminded me of the old boiler room where you've got, this room of 15, unscrupulous kids who are sitting around just ripping off people, basically. They've got an older leader who's, giving them prizes and making it exciting to come to work and giving them trinkets of dollars, but they're raising literally billions of dollars doing this. And this is what this movie's about. But this is actually happening right now, where you get a call again from your grandchild, and they're saying they're in trouble, and now what they're doing is they're bringing in a case number, like they're being arrested or something, and they get someone else to say that they're a police officer or a DA or an attorney or something, to legitimize this scam, which is again this classic grandparent scam. And they're trying to make it seem credible by giving you, case numbers or phone numbers that tie into something that's legitimate. But again, the idea is to get the grandparent to wire money.
Right.
Could be through crypto, could be through your own bank account, could have you go into the bank and transfer money. I mean,
it's been gift cards. We had a case where they asked for them to send gift card pins to the bad actors. So it could be all of those things.
And we see this a lot too with gift cards. There's a lot of folks who just say, well, let's do a gift card and it's like, no, that's not a good idea, because it's basically just cash.
Right.
You don't have really any recourse on it.
Yeah.
So first of all, if someone calls you on your phone, I get this, where you get a call from someone you don't know, it's an unfamiliar number. My advice to you would be just don't even answer that call. And I do that all the time. I get calls, I don't know who it is, I'll just send it to voicemail. I will not look at it. So if you want to get around that, the people that you do know, you can put them in your phone. You can type in their name, you can put in their phone number, and if they call you, you should see that pop up, and then you're like, okay, I know that person. But again, as we're saying, trust and verify, because just because it's someone who you have in your directory doesn't necessarily mean they're legitimate, because they could have hacked your directory, right, through your phone. So that's the first thing. So that's something you could do. But again, if you're talking to somebody who's coming at you like it's your grandchild, and it sounds like your grandchild, and it's from your grandchild's phone number, what could you do? Well, you're talking to that person, find out more information,
yep,
and then hang up, right? And then I guess the next thing would be, we'll call their parent.
Yeah.
Is Johnny in Paris? Yes. Have you talked to Johnny? Well, yeah. Is everything okay? Well, yeah.
Yeah.
So before you just turn around and it's emergency, and again, high pressure, and you've got to get this done now. Talk to the member's family and or friends.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No. I mean, the mitigations to deal with these things are going to be consistent. It's slow down. It's talk. It's again, educate, talk to your networks about these different approaches that crooks are taking. So when you get that call, you're like, I know what this is.
Yeah.
We talked about this, or I heard about this, or I heard it on that radio show with that Sandman guy.
Right.
They talked about this.
Yeah.
And so raising that awareness is critically important. And going back to your comment about, getting the calls, the robocalls and the scam calls and all those types of things, folks can get placed on do not call lists. Obviously, that's not a panacea in terms of you never receiving a call if you sign up for those things. But if you go to the Fair Trade Commission, you go to their website, you can get on these do not call lists, register your phone with them, go to a .gov website to sign up for those things. And that's something that folks can do to try to mitigate that volume of calls that they get from scammers.
Good tip. Thank you. All right. So we will be back in a few minutes. If you need help, if you've had something like this happen to you, or you're just not sure, give us a call. Our number is 866-PROTECT. We've got a couple folks here right now who can help you maybe talk through some of these things. 866-PROTECT. Also, if you're concerned about your financial documents or your legal documents and how secure they are, or where they're located, or what's going on with those and how people would access them and use them. If you don't know the latest ways to save and retain those in a safe way, give us a call, 866-PROTECT. We'll share with you the ways we're doing it and how we could help you protect your assets. We will be right back.
Take the first step toward reaching your financial goals and get the information that can help you live a confident retirement. That first step is going to pyaevents.com and signing up for our next free event. That's pyaevents.com. Now back to Protect Your Assets with David Hollander, the Sandman.
Welcome back. I am David Hollander, also known as the Sandman. People call me the Sandman. That's because I help my listeners sleep well at night by answering their most troubled tax, legal, or financial questions each week. And that's because we've been doing this for over 30 years. If you're just tuning in now, we're talking about how criminals are using the latest technology to rip you off and what you can do about it. And this is such a ever-changing, quickly growing industry. Billions of dollars literally are stolen from people every year. I thought I'd bring in someone who's right on the front lines, who runs a police department. I got Chief Bowers with me this morning. We've been talking about how people are being ripped off and what you can do about it. Chief, thanks for being here again.
Yeah, glad to be here.
We were talking previously about the grandparent scam, this classic grandparent scam, and how, I wanted to tie into that. A client I had who was divorced. She's a senior and she was divorced, and her husband's still around. But he did things like not pay taxes and didn't tell her about things he was doing. And so they ended up splitting. Anyway, she called me a couple of weeks ago, and her ex-husband had these hospital bills that he was asking her to step in and help him because he was incapacitated, and she was named as the power of attorney on his healthcare directive. So the hospital starts calling her and saying, hey, there's this bill and we need you to pay because you're the person, and da-da-da. And so she kind of freaked out. And so she called me right away and she said, do I have to pay this? And I said, well, you're divorced, right? Yep. And how long you been divorced? Because I didn't know the details of this guy. She never really told me much about him. And it had been a few years, and apparently this was a recent medical situation. So anyway, she's alone. She doesn't really have kids with her. She lives by herself, and it was scary to get this call from the billing department of the hospital and not really know that she didn't have to pay this. So she thought she was going to have to, and I told her, no, you have no responsibility to pay this. Don't pay it. They have a problem, have them call me, and it sort of ended there. But it didn't, because she actually called me again a few weeks later, and I think it was because he came out of the coma or something, and he was putting pressure on her. So there's this other type of, it's someone who is not a cyber criminal that doesn't know you, but it's a family member. How common is this that family rips off family or does unethical things with people's properties and things? I mean, do you see any of this?
Absolutely. Okay. And it's interesting that you bring that up. I was thinking the exact same thing as we were talking earlier about all these other types of fraud and AI and whatnot. Unfortunately, frequently it's those that versus those that you don't. So when talk about a breach of trust that happens, it's when it's somebody that a loved one, a child, a niece, a nephew, those types of things, and so we
brother, a sister.
We do see that. Yeah, we do see the elder financial abuse, and unfortunately that is something that we deal with. And really, when. Again, if there's something like that's going on, reporting is huge. Getting law enforcement involved, getting in Alameda County, you have Alameda County Social Services and Adult and Aging Services that exists within the county that has a number of resources in dealing with those situations.
What usually happens is someone come out and just talk to you about what happened, and then they investigate and see what actually happened. And then walk just kind of
typically the way it comes to law enforcement is because typically it's been over time. And what will happen is you'll have, you have the victim, the elderly person, you'll have the
and you
offender.
Have the elderly too. This could happen
That's
to,
true.
Anybody really.
Then you'll have the offender.
Yeah.
And then you'll have another close person in the familial or inner circle network who will become privy to what's going on, see the bad acts and intercede and come to us.
Okay.
So that's typically how we get it. And so once we get that information, we're generating a report. We're asking questions, figuring out if this is criminal or not and whatnot. And these investigations are very, they're obviously sensitive, but they're not simple either.
Right.
There's financial matters at play here. There's a lot of it's civil in nature, in terms of things that, agreements that have been made and who's got this and who's that. And so they can be complicated. But the earlier that the reporting happens, again, the better. I mean, there's a theme here we're talking about today, right? In terms of reporting. And so that's typically how we get involved. And then we'll frequently work with the district attorney's office, with adult protective services. We're working with a team of folks who have various resources to bring to bear to look at the situation from multiple angles and different perspectives to determine, the criminal nature of what's involved or what other approaches need to be made in terms of mitigating what's happened to the individual, but also holding the person accountable who took part in whatever fraud or scheme of their loved one that they committed.
We were talking earlier about the reverse mortgage, and we had a client who was down there that their daughter, again, this is from the brother, there was a daughter who transferred the property to the daughter because she was taking care of mom and she felt like it was owed to her. Brother found out about it because there was a letter that came from the district attorney's office to mom's mailbox. Mm-hmm. And he opened it up and he read it and he said, how did this happen? And he dug into it and found out his sister had done this. Mm-hmm. Does Alameda County, do you know, have anything like that where, again, for this reverse mortgage or getting on people's properties, they think everything's good, but it turns out someone else owns it? Like, how does this happen?
Yeah. So to answer your question, yes, the Alameda County District Attorney's Office does have a capability that does look at property transferences and does make notifications because it's actually fairly common for this type of thing to happen, unfortunately. Wow. So that's why there's mechanisms in place to make those notifications. And again, it goes back to, having your financial picture in order, and having, your trust set up and having people who, again, have a fiduciary responsibility to you involved in your life. Yeah. And why that's so critical, especially as, you age or if you're a person with just other vulnerabilities, having those things in place. If you're if you're an adult parent and you have a child with needs, right? Right. Ensuring that there's structures in place for that child who has special needs, where they're not, taken advantage of as well. I mean,
so when you're not there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good point. And that's a special needs trust. And, as most of you know, we do those. So if you have questions about this, you want to know more about this, if you have questions about what you can do to protect yourself, make sure your documents are in order, make sure that you're doing everything you can to prevent these things from happening to you or your loved ones, call us right now. We're here, 866-PROTECT. Our team's back there right now answering the phone. We'd love to talk to you this morning, 866-PROTECT. We'll even look at what you have, give you an idea of what we can do to fix it, what it would cost. There's no obligation, no cost to do that. If you just want to find out where you sit right now, want a second opinion, 866-PROTECT. Give us a call. When we come back, we're going to talk about the latest scam that involves the Olympics in Paris. You're not going to want to miss this. So much more to come on Protect Your Assets. We'll be right back.
If you missed any of Protect Your Assets with David Hollander, all you have to do is go to pyaradio.com where you can download or listen to our latest shows for free. Just go to pyaradio.com on your computer or mobile device when it's most convenient for you. That's pyaradio.com. Now back to Protect Your Assets with David Hollander, the Sandman.
Welcome back. I am David Hollander, also known as the Sandman. People around here, they call me that because I help my listeners sleep well at night by answering their most troubled tax, legal, or financial questions each week. And that's because I've been running a tax, legal, and financial planning firm for over 30 years. Today, we're talking about protecting your assets with some of the most recent scams that are going on from these crooks who just keep getting more and more sophisticated using all kinds of technology, including AI. So I brought in Chief Bowers of the Piedmont Police Department this morning with me to talk about these scams, how they're doing it, what they're doing, what you can do about it. I hope you've been enjoying the show so far today. If you missed any of it, go back and check out our podcast. You can go to Protect Your Assets on your favorite podcast site, Spotify, iTunes, etc. All right, so Chief, let's talk about this Paris Olympic scams. The Olympics are right around the corner.
Can't wait.
Yep. It's actually, I was in Paris last year and it's beautiful right now. They cleaned that city up in a big way for this. So it's, there's even a movie now about sharks swimming in the Seine and stuff. It's crazy. All this stuff going on. Anyway, the city's transformed. So here's the scam that's going on right now. Apparently, a scammer hacks your email account. Shortly thereafter, all of your contacts in your email receive this message, something to the effect of, hey guys, I'm over in Paris and my wallet got stolen. Can anyone please help me out by sending gift cards or a Venmo deposit? And it's this is a very personal ruse that's coming from someone that you communicated with via email. So have you heard about anything like this kind of going on with, I guess that was the old phishing maybe thing or something? Or?
Yeah, I mean, what these crooks are going to do, and it's the Olympics now, but they want to take advantage of things that are happening in the world to, again, speed up your clock of when you're going to respond. So it could be the Olympics. It could be a tragedy like the Maui fires. It could be,
I heard about someone who said that their father had just died and they needed money to pay for his funeral. I mean, something just horrific too, right?
Yeah, individualistic in your own life.
Pets, right?
Yeah. So, crooks are going to look for anything to take advantage of a situation. In this case, it's the Olympics. But as I said, folks who are listening, if there's a major event that happens, a major tragedy that happens, catastrophe, whatnot, the crooks are going to be right behind it, looking to take advantage of people's goodwill, in terms of donating to those efforts, or, again, just distracting you of the event so that they can, again, social engineer you to, compromise yourself and your finances.
Is it a good idea ever to use these gift cards? I mean, why would you send money through a gift card to anybody?
No.
I don't understand that.
That's called a clue. Somebody's calling you and asking you to provide a gift card or the number or anything like that. That's a clue to disengage. And even when you go buy gift cards these days,
sure,
crooks are going into the stores and compromising the accounts. And I've had folks who have bought gift cards and the gift cards already been used up because crooks have gone in the store. So very tenuous situation.
Yeah. So be careful with those. Maybe don't do that. Maybe give the gift directly to the person in cash, or go to the restaurant or what have you and get it directly from them. I mean, there's other ways to do it than use the convenience. Convenience is nice, but it also you can lose money too. So be aware of that. Well, great. Hey Chief, I really want to thank you for being here this morning. It's been great.
Yeah.
Really appreciate all your information and help as always. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Number one, if you fall victim, report it. Call your local police department. The FBI has their IC3, their Crime Complaint Center, www.ic3.gov to report. And again, California is number one. When you look at the, obviously we're the biggest state,
sure,
most people,
sure.
But when you look at the stats from the FBI on victims and monetary loss, you go back to their 2023 report that you can access through the website I just gave. We're number one.
Is that right?
So we're a fertile ground. So people need to kind of pay attention. And again, at the end of the day, it's about prevention, communicating with each other, and reporting.
Absolutely. Well, hey, thanks again. Thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. And again, if anyone's out there, you need help, you want your papers reviewed, you want us to go over what you're doing, how you're storing data, financial data in particular, your account information, all those sort of things. We help you with that here at the Liberty Group. We're more than happy to give you a free consultation, how we're proactively managing all of these threats that are coming at us regularly. Call us, 866-PROTECT. Get a second opinion, 866-PROTECT. Don't fall victim to a scam. 866-PROTECT is the way you can get help. I'd like to give a big thanks to the Protect Your Assets crew for putting together a great show today. My executive producer, network manager, Kevin Renfer, and of course, all my fabulous producers back there doing all the hard work. We got Raph, Dylan, and Lucas this morning. Thanks, guys. Because without my team, I'm just another pretty voice on the radio. You have been listening to the Protect Your Assets show. I am David Hollander, the Sandman. Go out and make the rest of your life the best of your life.
Investment advisory services are offered through Liberty Wealth Management, a registered investment advisor. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as a basis for investment decisions. The strategies mentioned are not suitable for everyone. The information expressed does not consider your specific situation or objectives and may not be appropriate for all investors. Past performance is not indicative of future results. To better understand the risk associated with investing and how it reacts to different market conditions, listeners should always consult with their qualified investment professionals, financial advisors, legal or tax specialists, and conduct their due diligence before making any financial decisions or taking any action. The legal information provided on the air is not intended to substitute for callers hiring their lawyers to advise them about personal legal matters. Investments involve risk and, unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Liberty Group LLC paid for the following program, and the host's views and opinions do not represent those of the station or its ownership. California Life Agent number 048569. Persons engaging the services of one affiliate of Liberty Group LLC companies should be aware that each company is operated separately. You're listening to the Protect Your Assets Radio Network.